Afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Nice to see you. Welcome to the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, October 9th, 2025. Annette, if we can, move you over.
Mayor Burke. Councilperson Conwell.
Present.
Mayor Daley Jones. Here. Director Dever.
Here.
Mayor Gallo.
Here.
Smock Fields.
Here.
Mayor Kurtz.
Here.
Mayor Orcutt.
Here.
Councilperson Simon.
Joe Nami's here instead.
Thank you.
She might be showing up, so.
Mayor Weiss. Mayor Wheelow.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Annette, do we have anyone here for public comment?
No.
Nobody? All right, well, we'll move on to item number 3, the approval of the minutes from the August 14th, 2025 board meeting. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Is there any comments or questions on
Who wants an name?
changes?
I got the triple. She'll have the second.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. All right, we'll move right into the resolution.
Thank you. The first item requiring board action is resolution number 251009-A, requesting the approval of the Clean Ohio Green Space Green Space Conservation Program Cost Agreement with Ohio Public Works Commission and the District 1, which is Cuyahoga County Natural Resource Assistance Council. Meg Cheney, Senior Planner, will be presenting today.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think most of you have heard this spiel before, but wanted to give a little overview of the Clean Ohio program, how it fits into other state programs, and what we do administratively. So the Clean Ohio Green Space Conservation Program helps to fund preservation of important ecological areas, including open space, sensitive areas, and riparian corridors. The Ohio Public Works Commission began in 1987 and was tasked with the implementation of the State Capital Improvement Program, the SCIP, and then later was authorized to implement the Clean Ohio program in 2000. OPWC administers both the SCIP and the Clean Ohio program with localized guidance, and that localized guidance comes in the form of these 19 districts. And these 19 districts have boards that serve to administer both the SCIP, that is the District 1 Public Works Integrating Committee, DOPWIC, which I know all of you are aware of, as well as the Natural Resource Assistance Council, the NREC, that administers the Clean Ohio program. We are District 1. And I know the text is small on this, but this just illustrates how it all fits together. OPWC oversees both programs and then approves the methodologies and the policies that are created for both of these programs, and then ultimately awards project funds. DOPWIC and NREC both create the district methodologies, the approval processes, the selection processes. Those all have to get approved by OPWC. The one thing is that DOPWIC does appoint members of the NREC, so all appointees to the NREC have to first get approved by DOPWIC. So county planning has been providing administrative assistance since the program's inception in 2000. And these administrative services generally include the creation and distribution of the work plan, application materials, the manual, development of the selection process, evaluation of the submitted applications, preparing materials for meetings, and then also providing assistance to applicants as well as NREC members. It's a very successful program. Clean Ohio is popular statewide, and just here in our urbanized county, more than roughly 3,300 acres have been protected, and 6,700 lineal feet of riparian corridor has been protected. And this is actually kind of a lowball representation of all the good that Clean Ohio has done in the county. This doesn't include areas that have been for restoration purposes only. Sometimes cities own land that is not newly acquired, but they apply for restoration funds. So for just this past fiscal year, we just wrapped up fiscal year 2026 with two applicants being awarded. One was Orange Village for the Headwaters Preserve, and that preserved 35 acres with quality 3 wetlands or category 3 wetlands. And then the other one was for West Creek Conservancy for the Headwaters Connector in Solon, and that was 58 acres along a railway. And you can see it's a long stretch. It's that red one, and they're high quality tree canopy there and important habitat for migratory birds. So since 2015, OPWC, the NRAC, and County Planning have entered into a program cost agreement with the understanding that County Planning will provide these administrative services for up to $15,000. It's also understood that any costs above that, County Planning just pays for. Typically, we do not go above that $15,000. So we are seeking board approval for the OPWC, NRAC, and County Planning cost agreement for the fiscal administration of fiscal year 2027. And that would run that from March 1st, 2026 through February 28th, 2027. I believe that's it. Any questions?
Okay, thanks, Megan. Questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between Clean Ohio Green Space Conservation Program, or should I say it's the whole Ohio Public Works Commission. That's right. Yes. On the motion, is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Sorry. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next, Barry.
Thank you. That was the only item that needed board action, so we thought it was appropriate, since we've had a full agenda on other days, to give you some updates on projects that have been recently completed. So we're going to stick with Megan here about the Richmond, to do a presentation on Richmond Chardon Road Streetscape and Business Revitalization Plan.
Thank you. So, as Mary said, we wrapped this project up shortly ago, just about a month ago, and wanted to just discuss the plan in its entirety. So you see there, those 5 pictures are pictures of the 5 focus areas that really comprised the plan. So the planning staff, I was project lead for this one, managed by Jim Sonhalter. Other planning staff included Maureen Riley, Eric Engel, Luke Olds, and our information team included Dan Meany, Kevin Leeson, and Liam Levito. For Richmond Heights, our project team included Mayor Thomas, staff from the city including Chelsea Kovar and Rachel Gardner from Economic and Community Development, staff from the Recreation and Service Department, the Building Commissioner, and then representatives from area businesses and institutions including the local school districts, university hospitals, FlexJet, and the Richmond Heights DEI Committee. The project was started, and we entered into a contract with the city on May 30th, 2024. And then Richmond Heights City Council just adopted the plan in August 26th. It was wrapped up just about that year point in late May. It just took some time over the summer to work its way through city approvals. So the project objectives: 1, create vibrant business districts, improve walkability, bikeability, and create safe, attractive streets for all. And then part of what we were tasked with was to create site renderings to help illustrate the recommendations that we developed for each of these focus areas, and then back that up with specific updates to the zoning code. So these focus areas, 1 is Chardon Road East, is that eastern portion of Chardon Road, east of where it intersects with Richmond. And that area was greatly, part of the impetus of this plan was when University Hospital's Richmond Heights Hospital, they decided to close that, and then the resulting vacancies created by that hospital closure, as well as the vacancies of the associated medical offices. The Northside Business District is the intersection of Chardon and Richmond roads, and that serves as the northern gateway into the city. The airport corridor is that stretch of Richmond Road by the county airport, and as well as Integrity and Curtis Wright Parkways, we also consider that. The city center district is the intersection of Richmond and Highland, where a lot of the city services are. And then the Town Square Business District is the intersection of Richmond and Wilson Mills, where Richmond Mall used to be, where the current Bell Oaks development is. So the process of this plan followed a very similar process to most of our plans. We started with data collection and the current conditions, a visioning process with the project team, recommendations and development scenarios, and implementation and final documentation. This plan did differ somewhat because we created 5 separate vision statements for each of the 5 focus areas and 5 different sets of recommendations and development scenarios. We really wanted to make this a very usable plan, so as the city goes through and focuses on one area, they could very easily just take that portion of the plan and focus on that. And then throughout this process, we were guided by the project team. We had monthly or semi-monthly meetings, and they were in charge of reviewing the materials and providing feedback. We also had community engagement in the terms of a survey, public meetings, and stakeholder interviews. So the current conditions, we pinpointed where each of these focus areas, kind of the central area was, or the central line, and then created a 10-minute watershed around these areas. And that really gave us a snapshot of what the demographics, what the characteristics of the neighborhood is around these areas, as well as the environmental and land use landscape. So we looked at demographic and socioeconomic data, environmental data, land use and zoning, business analysis was conducted in each of these, and we looked at traffic and crash data to really give us a good picture of what the different opportunities and the challenges that each of these areas was facing. So although we kind of made 5 mini little master plans for each of these, there were recurring themes and some guiding principles that are threaded throughout each of the recommendations. So promotion of walkability and bikeability, reduction of parking in favor of putting land to more economic and ecological productivity, creation of vibrant streetscapes, promotion of development that not only encourages a robust economy, but a resilient economy. And then emphasizing the social realm to not only promote quality of life, but also as an economic driver. So this, I could talk till like 9 p.m. on all this, so I'm really gonna try to zip through these, and we can go back and discuss. Mary knows to give me the high sign if I start getting too long-winded. But so Chardon Road East had some interesting characteristics. It was the most residentially dense area of the 5 different focus areas. It had a very large concentration of children, especially very young children under 5. It had the lowest household income and highest percentages of households with no access to a vehicle. And then also combined with the departure of the UH hospitals, those were all things that we really wanted to consider and incorporated that into our vision. So we really looked at walkability and the safety of the area in terms of connectivity. And then figuring out how to make recommendations to address those vacancies in a way that really served the immediate surrounding community. So as I said, renderings were developed for each of the focus areas, and we kind of did approach them in 2 different ways. So this one is kind of the pretty one. It's the aspirational one that we called the visioning graphic. It goes with the vision and the goals. So we wanted to illustrate how these areas could look as a desired future state. So you see their buildings are moved up to the street. There's a lot of trails, really focusing on green space and connectivity, and creating a very walkable corridor. And so I'm not going to read all those goals, but they further refine and pinpoint that broad vision statement from the previous slide. And then for each of these goals, or for each of these focus areas, the last goal is going ahead to update the zoning regulations to reflect all the previous goals in that section. So just an example. So, and then we have another set of graphics, and this is a little bit more nitty gritty. It's not quite as pretty, but these graphics are the recommendations graphics. And we really wanted to drill down as kind of a incremental steps and recommendations to eventually achieve that desired future state. So you see there the bubbles, they correspond with the action item. And we got very specific on the potential ideas and interventions that the city could do for these sites. So taking the university hospitals as an example of one of the goals and strategies and action items, we suggested taking the current infrastructure that's already designed for medical spaces and using that either to attract a satellite college program like they did at South Point Hospital in Warrensville. They coordinate with Ohio University. And another potential option would be to convert some of those medical office buildings into mixed use, so preserving that first floor of medical space and then having potentially senior housing on top. And then here's that last goal is updating the zoning regulations. We found that the public facilities district that occupied a lot of the land use in that corridor was very restrictive in terms of permitted uses and also required huge setbacks. So recommending that they expand the number of permitted uses to create kind of more opportunity and also reducing setbacks so more infill development could occur. For the Northside Business District, this area is characterized, has highest percentage of senior population. It serves as the northern gateway. There is also a good number, a high percentage of youth in this area. It was the location of several very serious accidents over the last 10 years between pedestrian and cars. So we really wanted to make sure that we looked at safety, walkability, making sure that those high youth and high density residential populations in this northern part could get to the services located centrally. So there's that graphic we showed, buildings up towards the front of the streetscape, parking in rear. One of the biggest and most successful recommendations that the people really rallied around was the removal of slip lanes. So I don't know if you can see from the previous one. There's that one slip lane. This is currently there on the eastern side. There's a corresponding one that goes off to the west as well currently. So we are recommending to take out the one on the west entirely to create new opportunities for economic development. And then low-hanging fruit was just to include a barrier halfway through that other slip lane so it can remain a residential dead end for access onto Chardon Road. And then the southern part of that slip lane would become a shared access drive for the non-residential uses in that area. So, and again, updating the zoning code to reflect these desired. So the city really wanted to have this area kind of act like a small town traditional business district, and that would also help with pedestrian safety. So we wanted to make sure to include recommendations to that zoning district that would help achieve that. The airport corridor, so this is lower residential density as you would expect, but it is the biggest economic driver in Richmond Heights with the highest number of jobs and highest number of really well-paid jobs. It also serves as the spine of the community. So you have a lot of those kids living into the northern area of the city travel this corridor to get to the school down by Highland. But there's little to attract and entice people into this corridor. Workers in this around the airport don't have many places to go. There are very few services for them. So we wanted to make sure that the vision included this becoming a regional model of a healthy office park that has robust economic development and does so in a healthy way. So this shows lots of infill development, lots of green infrastructure. Looking at this area was interesting because it had very little impervious surface, which is great, but it also had very little tree canopy, largely because of flight paths with the airlines. So we wanted to make sure to include pollinating gardens, bioswales, things that were compatible with the activity of the airlines, but also featured a lot of ecological benefits. And then another thing that the community really expressed wanting to do, there used to be a restaurant, I think they said it was called the Red Baron, that was located here, and people really missed that. So we wanted to include that as a recommendation, maybe a modern take, like a brew pub, to take advantage of those cool sightlines of the airport and the airlines coming in. There's also an opportunity to do sports venues. You see those big, like the Junkyard and Sky Zone in a lot of industrial complexes. With the amount of youth traveling along this corridor, that would seem to make a lot of sense as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
The previous slide talked about number 5, ecological benefits. What did the community have in mind?
We spoke with the county airport on this, and they were very receptive. So taking away some of the turf, because it's all just turf, and it's intensive in terms of resources and time. You know, the county airport spends a lot of time mowing and having people mow that area. So they were very receptive to converting areas to bioswales that were lower, implementing pollinator gardens, so long as they weren't, we made sure to include don't attract birds, because that would be a danger, but butterflies and bees they were okay with. And also you see those little lines we made, there's wide open spaces that have to remain wide open spaces, would seem to really be conducive to solar panels.
Right.
So, yeah. And considering the amount of kids and cyclists that traverse this area, there is potential for a lot more trees. They would just have to be out of the flight path. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then, again, with the zoning district, this area is currently zoned office industrial. When we started the process, that was the entire county airport was zoned that, and it was incredibly restrictive. So our recommendation was to, of course, update that to include a lot more permitted uses, to reduce the setbacks, to allow smaller surfaces to come in. Midway through the process, Chelsea Kovar, who was the EDD, introduced the B3 district, which was designed to be a lot more expansive in terms of uses and encourage a lot more investment.
Does a great job.
The city center district, how am I doing on time, Mary? Okay. So again, this area had a lot of services. That has the school, the library, the park, post office, the municipal center. Wanted to make sure that this was a very walkable area, and it really is not right now. It's characterized by a ton of curb cuts, very wide aprons. It's not a very pleasant walking experience. So we really wanted to focus on accessibility. So there's the kind of the grand vision graphic, and then we really got very specific. We identified specific parcels, businesses to work with to either encourage shared parking or taking away one of the access points into a parking lot. These drive aprons were huge and could easily accommodate 2A traffic. And then lastly, the town square business district. This area had had the highest household median income, and it had a base of young workers. So we really wanted to focus on creating the social realm. This has the highest concentration of retail jobs and retail stores. So we really wanted to focus on encouraging the social realm and that community in this area. So those building footprints are the current Bell Oaks drawings that we got and incorporated into those areas. But then you see the more recommendation-focused graphics, just building in those green space, those areas for interaction, for photo shoots, for social media, things like that, that kind of low-hanging fruit that really make a big impact. And then this is the implementation matrix. So once we have developed all those, we go ahead and assign priority, time frame, cost, funding sources, potential partners, just really trying to make it as easy as possible for the community to start implementing these things. And then again, it was adopted in August of this year. So any questions? Thanks for bearing with me. I know that was
No, and it's
really
great,
long.
and that was an example of a project that was funded through the Community Planning Service Program. So it was a very small investment from the community and more in-kind from our team. And I think the beauty of all of this is we say there's no point in planning just to plan, but the fact that it was done in a year and already adopted this year, I mean, that's what you want. And now the next step would be, implementing those recommendations, so.
I was just interested to see that you put on the First Suburbs Consortium when they're not a first suburb. They're not in the consortium
Where did I put that?
at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it said first,
Potential funding part.
Potential funding.
Oh,
Potential,
yes. Oh, that was it. Yep.
they're
So-
not in the consortium.
You know, that's, okay, that's a good point.
Just to let you know.
We should talk to either Jennifer Kuzma or Rachel about that. So, thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, sure. All right, thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
Now you can take a break. And then the next project we want to give you an update on, we talked about this a while back, but the East 22nd Street Small Area Plan that we partnered with the City of Cleveland on, and Alex Long is going to present that to you in terms of where we were and how it all came together.
Hi, this is my first time
Is
in
your
front
first
of the
time?
board. Yeah, so I'm a principal planner. I've been here probably like a year and almost a half now, but it is my first time. I think I was supposed to present Bedford approval and I got sick like 10 minutes beforehand, so apologies. Patrick had to do it for me, so I should apologize to him. Okay. Okay, so East 22nd Street current conditions assessment. You guys don't know anything about this, a lot of you, because we haven't presented about it. So this was done through an MOU with the city of Cleveland, because the county had a vested interest in the Juvenile Justice Center within this area, and those conversations kind of came about organically about this large study, or kind of small study area, but the larger picture involved with it between all the different partners that were involved. So it's centered on East 22nd Street, but we expanded it to East 30th, to the east, Prospect Avenue to the north, the interstate on kind of the west, and then Broadway to the south. That is the general study area, and I'll talk more about kind of why in a second. So it was managed by Patrick. Mary was also heavily involved in it throughout the whole process because of the high level of coordination that was required among all project partners and stakeholders. And then we had Nicole and Laura also, and the information team provide a lot, and we worked very closely with our project team at the Cleveland City Planning Commission, especially with Adam and Kenya were very, very helpful in continuing kind of this effort beyond where we left it off, essentially. So the background, Cleveland City Planning Commission engaged county planning to perform a current conditions assessment of the East 22nd Street corridor and surrounding area. The project grew from a desire from both the city and county to coordinate many concurrent, highly consequential planning efforts by a wide variety of stakeholders within a small area. There'll be an image I show after this that explains just how many stakeholders there were within this area. And I mean, they ranged from, the Juvenile Justice Center, so the county, to St. Vincent, which is now being torn down, in addition to the Juvenile Justice Center, and then Tri-C, CMHA, so just a whole bunch of different very kind of large organizations that were doing a lot of stuff within a very small area. The primary goal was to identify opportunities to collaborate on some of the efforts that all these different entities were undertaking at the same time, because it was really affecting the area, and the area was particularly small, and there wasn't a ton of coordination among the different plans that were happening, as well as coordinating implementation to make sure that things were aligned schedule-wise. So CMHA, their old Cedar estates were undergoing some planning, and those residents would have to be moved out before some demolition of different things like the interstate and JJC, things like that would affect the quality of life of those residents. Our actual assessment involved reviewing the existing plans, pulling data, asking stakeholders for insight, and then using all that to identify the different opportunities that we'll talk Okay, so this is what I mean when I say that there's like a lot of stakeholders and a lot of plans within a really small area. So this was one of the first graphics we put together for our own understanding and found that it was highly effective in explaining this to people. So 15 different plans within this area, and then not pictured because there weren't any illustrated concepts yet, were at least 7 other projects that were being undertaken or planned. So some of these involved the St. Vincent Charity Community Health Center partial demolition, as well as Sisters of Charity building their Women's Religious Archive Center, potential proposed Cleveland Soccer Stadium in the bottom left, the CCG 3A, interstate replacement project. Tri-C had just underwent a brand new master planning phase, I guess, or, well, it's a very significant plan, a whole facilities plan for revamping their facilities. The CMHA Old Cedar Estates also underwent master planning. The East 22nd Street Bridge was being placed as part of the CCG 3A campus district. Also, at the same time that we were starting this planning process, issued an RFP for a master plan of their own, which this study area is included in their campus district master plan, and I'll explain how that ties in. And then, in addition to that, Ward 5 Councilman Starr had hired CSU to do an asset mapping study for his school board. So the whole idea of this was to coordinate all the stuff that was going on at once in this area, to be like, yo, do you guys know, sorry, I should say yo, to be like, do you guys know what each other is doing or not? And how can we make it all work together? So some of those already had timelines. We laid that out for people, like, look, there's all these overlapping things that are happening. Some of it's demolition, some of it's construction, some of it's very long-term. This is kind of how it lays out in terms of looking at it on a timeline. In addition to that, so everyone had already done their own little planning projects for their individual properties. No one had looked at the area as a whole. So we undertook that, conducted an assessment of what was going on with the infrastructure in the area, the land use, all of those kind of typical things that we would look at in a planning process to identify if there were either additional opportunities, things that were missed, or things that were just not coordinated, I guess. The interstate was a really big thing. Obviously, it's a huge barrier. That was a consistent thread throughout all of this, throughout all these conversations and the analysis. Bicycle network was also cut off by the interstate. Had transit opportunities. RTA was a stakeholder. The road network and safety, high crash areas that we identified and talked with ODOT about. Pavement condition ratings were paired with potential for lane reductions, so looking at traffic volume and the number of lanes currently, and then the roads that were in poor pavement conditions so that those could potentially be paired with road diet concepts. So, for instance, what is that? Cedar Avenue in Carnegie, and then portions of Orange and Broadway were also in very poor condition, and those were also areas that had an excessive number of lanes. In terms of land use, over 50% of it was institutional, which is another part of the stakeholder conversation. Like these were all kind of like CSU and Tri-C, and even the Postal Service. We actually talked to someone at the Postal Service, which was really difficult to do. But these are Salvation Army is there, some other folks. So it's a lot of nonprofits, a lot of public sector entities that own a lot of land that have a lot of opportunity to make something happen here. That's very intentional with all of their efforts and planning. So you can see all the blue is the institutional. the gray to the southwest, yeah, southwest was all ODOT land too that they were trying to sell. And that part of that was bought up by the Cleveland Soccer Group / Metro Parks for their stadium planning effort. And then zoning completely mismatched from everything that was happening, unsurprisingly. We also did like kind of a workforce analysis, being like, okay, so what are the conditions here right now? A lot of people are coming here and working at St. Vincent, for example. Where are they coming from? What else can be provided here to continue to capture that workforce base, as well as who was living there and where they were working and where were the opportunities to assist them in potentially commuting to work and things of that nature. But to be fair, it is a very small study area, so some of this stuff is statistically questionable. But nonetheless, we did our best to verify a lot of these conditions that were revealed through the data. So, I mean, the biggest employer, like we said, was St. Vincent, so that was a huge loss in terms of the workforce in this area. But I see in the news, they've been continuing to make plans and partnerships with a lot of different facilities and healthcare opportunities, which was encouraged through this effort too. Also did an on-the-ground kind of housing analysis. I mean, CMHA has a significant amount of land there and housing there that they have redeveloped all of Sankofa, and they're planning to do it for Old Cedar too. So these are all of the stakeholders we engaged. You can kind of see, like, it's a really big laundry list of some very, significant public sector and nonprofit folks. Some of the other things that we're having, the CVNP, the Scenic Railroad Study, extending that to downtown was occurring too, so they were brought in. The Workforce Development Board was also within that study area. Neighborhood Family Practice was locating there or had just located there. The Scouting America was located there and was looking for a new opportunity, and that was something, a new facility, and that was something that was revealed through the process too. So kind of all of these people were brought together in one space, and they all actually showed up, which was awesome.
1 second,
Yeah.
Just have a question. Was Cuyahoga County at the table in any
Yeah.
capacity? Where?
There's Annie Pease is in there, and then we had
And who?
Annie Pease,
Oh, the transportation.
transportation.
Is-
I don't know. She's right there.
Okay, she's in a picture but not listed as a stakeholder. The county.
Did I not put the
We
county?
should be. We own juvenile, we own the courthouse.
They were
Okay.
there. We were there, and we
Okay.
had
It was
a
probably one of the partners, because City of Cleveland's not listed here either.
Yeah,
I
it
think
is.
it's out
yeah.
I thought I saw city.
Council.
council.
Hmm.
Well,
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm assuming we were, but
You
I
were.
didn't see it.
you were.
Yep. And then we did do a briefing with county leadership relevant to the area. I remember at some point, Mary, as well as with
And council,
council.
President Jones at the time.
And what?
And President Jones at the time, we did give him a briefing as well.
Yep.
That's his district. Okay.
Yeah. So everyone was gathered there, and we went through a few activities, but really the biggest outcome from this huge kind of workshop that we put together was just getting people talking to each other about what they were doing, and the potential for working together, creating partnerships. This is some of the stuff. So it was really, some other outcomes were kind of visioning what they wanted this area to be, and looking at what was working and what wasn't working. So the map on the right was something called a retain and reimagine map, where they would place dots on things that were working well and they wanted to keep, and put purple dots where things could be reimagined. So the vision statement ultimately came out to be: the East 22nd Street area will be a safe and secure home to a collaborative network of institutions, uplifting the neighborhood and region through integrated social services and focused community development. The really big focus was just that this is a high concentration of service providers, between Salvation Army, St. Vincent, even Tri-C can be considered a service provider. There is St. Joseph's, St. Mary's Home / Sisters of Charity, and a lot of other social and healthcare facilities, including the William Patrick Day Center, which we operate. Cute. Okay, great.
Oopsie.
Loved that.
Well, they go, not that fast, but go through some of them. Yeah, I think you're almost through.
Kevin's got it. Maybe. Like third to last slide of mine. There you go. Okay, so this is ultimately what the opportunity mapping ended up looking like. It was kind of overlaying everything together on a single map. So what was identified as underutilized, or if folks were looking to grow. So kind of in the dead middle there, those teal buildings. I think one was Salvation Army, one was LifeWorks Autism Center, and then one was Scouting America. They were all looking for larger facilities because they were growing and they wanted to offer more services. Whereas some other places like the Wolstein Center and the Tri-C building, that's kind of like a standalone building on the left over there. Can't remember what it's called. We had a meeting there. Jerry Sue Thornton Center? Yeah. Underutilized buildings were not being used to their full capacity. Excess parking, wherever there were existing plans or projects, wherever there was vacant land, planned demolition, et cetera. Looking at all these overlapping things together to identify opportunities for coordination. It was then broken down into infrastructure and development. So these were all the infrastructure opportunities that were identified in large buckets of improving streets, reducing barriers, enhancing connectivity, and ensuring safety, with a key opportunity identified for Orange Street / Woodland, I think. But basically that interstate that would eventually be replaced and redesigned. And then sorry, I know this is very small, this is just what it looks like in the report. Development opportunities broken down into separate blocks because, I mean, physically you tend to do stuff in kind of blocks and not scattered. So looking at all of those opportunities together at what could all be conducted at once, along with another identified key opportunity. And as I said, the Campus District Master Plan was undergoing at the same time. They are finishing up their master plan this month. So all of this, we worked with them very closely throughout this. It's used to inform their recommendations within their Campus District Master Plan. Because we stopped here to help them. Any questions?
Okay, is there any questions, Councilwoman?
Yeah.
So after this process, collaborated, gotten agencies and institutions to collaborate, what's the next step? Who takes the lead?
We talked about that a lot because it was difficult to get everyone together, and on the same page. The city, so I talked about Kenya and Adam. We, specifically, or very kind of explicitly, were like, look, you guys need to be the ones to continue moving this forward, as well as Campus District as they continued in their master planning process. So those were the two entities that we kind of tasked with moving it forward. We've been brought in here and there for different things that are happening. So for instance, St. Vincent, I know you talked with a couple weeks ago about some of the developments happening on their site and what they're doing. We kept lines open, but ultimately it's up to the city and this CDC to continue moving it forward.
Who's the CDC?
Campus District Inc.
Which one?
Campus District Inc. Yeah, we did engage Midtown and BBC also, who were very supportive of it, but they were like, this isn't really our area, but we are happy to help however we can.
And we hope it continues. I mean, that time we got everybody in the same room, it was like the first time some people had met each other and then made a connection with someone and shared contact information.
Mhm.
We heard things like, I I need a commercial kitchen, I need a commercial kitchen, I need a commercial kitchen. It's like, well, we don't need 3 commercial kitchens in this area. Oh, William Pate has a commercial kitchen. You know, there were things like that happened. So they were neighbors, but they didn't know each other. And so, and Mark, I know you participated in some of these too. And it was really just that convening of the campus district goes all the way up to Superior. So it's such a huge district that this is like one major piece of it. But they continued on with their consultant for the majority of the northern portion and then wrapped this into it. But, I mean, I think a good example is CMHA, knowing what was happening with the county, the former juvenile court building, they kind of waited and said, let's see what everybody else is doing before we start going forward with the plan. So it was a really good opportunity for people to coordinate and take a pause before they jumped into their planning, not knowing what other people were doing. And I know those conversations still continue with that.
I would recommend just, this is really great work here, but I don't know if you have the overlay of what the new, once the remodel of the interchange is being taken place.
Yeah,
Just to incorporate that, because our parcel will be sliced in half.
Yeah, I talked to Campus District about that, and they have included that in their
Right.
Site plan, their illustrative site planning.
And I think we did in the very beginning, one of the graphics had some alignments on that, but I think that was the good point, and why this really started was because all of a sudden, everyone was talking about the county's property, but not talking to the county. People were trying to think of plans for that site, and it was gonna be much, much smaller than it currently exists once that Interbelt project came in. So it was trying to get the coordination with everybody on the same page of, you know,
Be the first project that would go forward is, so the city of Cleveland is gonna talk with the state and stay with the interchange. And then, since Marcus sits on this, commission, go between it, let us know.
how it's going. I know Alex is invited to the Interbelt, those happen
For
right
the
there
next phase, the CCG4, but the CCG3 is pretty much, it's funded, it's fully funded at this point.
I think it's out to bid actually
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, so I mean, those plans are pretty solid. Like, they'll probably, I think, plan to start construction next year, or the year after, or at least demolition or whatever they're doing. And then our building is already being at least abated, right? The GJC.
It should be down
Or is
by
it down?
first
Okay.
quarter of next year.
Yeah, and then
St. Vincent's
St.
Tower is
Vincent
already.
also. Yeah,
going
so
down.
things,
Yeah, that's
That-
so weird to see.
yeah, that was the thing, is that things were moving while we were doing this too, right? So we were trying to catch up with some things and coordinate along the way, but there's still gonna be plenty of opportunity beyond that.
So Director, so we're gonna have a portion left of that site, that's our land, correct?
Yeah, there's,
And so what are,
there's 5 acres there. ODOT's gonna be utilizing part of our property for laydown area, staging area for their project.
Yeah.
So it'll probably be more like 2030 or so before really there's any opportunity to do something there. Because the road project itself is gonna take 3.5 years.
Yeah, and that was talked about, that site, what was left over for that site was talked about within our work, but Campus District, or I guess their consultant, is actually taking our inputs and then making a visual for it of what should happen at that corner, more or less. So that should be coming within the next month, like actually publishing that plan so that folks can have a look at what they are suggesting.
So to your point, Councilwoman, the council will have input on
Yes.
what's going on that specific site.
but I'm thinking this commission, we and Sunny would hear. Communication, where we're at, interstate, all that, cause I mean, we come in these meetings and things are happening, but you don't know.
Right. We'll keep you up to date on what's going on specifically with our parcel. But as soon as it comes down, it's gonna be dormant then until 2030 sometime.
Just with the project.
Great,
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex, appreciate it. Okay,
And just point, that's why it's great to be tap in.
okay,
Okay.
next item, Mary.
We'll move right along, because I know we've got solid waste after this, so I will be quick with my director's report. I don't know where the thing is.
Sorry, Kim.
Sorry. Like, obviously, you can see the team is very busy working on many projects. We've got a lot of other projects that are wrapping up and new ones that are underway. just a quick few things to touch base on that I wanted to make sure we cover today. Back in earlier in or late September, I was part. I'm not switching. Sorry, I switched my screen, not you. So I was part once again for the congressional fly-in with the National Association, American Planning Association, the national chapter, the advocacy group. And went to DC to really help move forward these issues with around the housing crisis and the barriers to housing. And so it's a great trip for County Planning Commission for me to go. APA pays my way there and my stay. And so it's really just the work getting on the ground. I was able to meet with staff from Senator Marino, Senator Houston, and Chantel Brown's office. And so unfortunately, they were all very busy. And so, really trying to push from a planning perspective, what needs to happen with zoning and other things to get housing moving more quickly. So really a great group to be part of. We continue to communicate with the offices there. Obviously, the government shutdown was not anything we expected, and hopefully get something through still this year. But really, I also think the piece is not just the political piece, but as all of us going from across the United States, we're all the constituents for those people who are in Washington, and so to hear what things are happening on the ground is very important. And so we as planners have the tools and the knowledge of which things that need to happen locally in order to move things forward. So great experience again this year. We also had the APA Ohio State Conference. That was just last week, 2 weeks ago now already. But it was amazing. The very first session was the keynote speaker, Gabe Klein, who was formerly with the Biden administration. He gave a shout out to the county TOD loan program that was brand new, launched. And then as he went through his slides, our benefits of TOD wheel was in his slides. It was created by our team. So that was pretty awesome for a national speaker who does TED Talks to have remarks about Cuyahoga County. And there was a lot of us there represented. Megan Cheney and Nicole Laird both presented at the meeting. And it was a really good opportunity for our team to go to a local conference. It was in Toledo. We did a lot of carpooling. But we get our credits for certification maintenance and the reporting year, so it was a really good, timely event to go to again this year. For our board appointments, so we had 3 terms that were going to expire at the end of this year. I just want to give big thanks to staff upstairs at the executives floor. Oftentimes, as you guys know, we're waiting and waiting and waiting for reappointments and terms have expired, but we are ahead of the game this time. So both Mayor Wheelo and Mayor Kurtz were before HRAE committee last week, so they will go through the council process, full reading since we don't have to have an emergency here. So pending council approval, they will be reappointed. And then Mayor Daley Jones also, she will be in front of the HRAE committee on November 4th, and then pending council approval, we should have everybody lockstep in before the end of the year, so we can move right into the new year with those appointments being confirmed. Budget discussions, obviously this is now Q4. We continue to have conversations about our budget with OBM and projecting where we will be before the end of the year. So we have identified with them some shortfalls in the budget, personnel services, salaries and benefits, and then controlled services, which are chargebacks to things like printing in the garage and mail that we can't control that are over budget where they're expected to be. So knowing where we are, that we will likely have to have an additional appropriation at Q4 25. Obviously, this is a very sensitive subject given budget deficit and where we are planning for the biennial budget. But this goes back to, I've talked about this before. In 2024, we had a request additional $150,000 appropriation because we had 2 people hired after the snapshot and our merit raises were not in the snapshot timeframe, so we were short on that. So that was approved for 24, but it didn't go into 25, so we knew this year we'd be short, but we're trying to cut costs everywhere else that we can. But as you guys can see by the people who presented today, and every time we come here, my talent and my superpower is my staff, and so I want to make sure that we take care of them as well, and we're working through all of that. So that the biennial budget draft has just been submitted to council, so that will be, I think, full council first reading next week. So this is all just very draft numbers right now in terms of our budget. So this is the biennial budget for 26 and 27. Operating budget is coming in a little over 2.4 for 26 and 2.4 for 27. The program budget is right around $685,000. That's for HUDC, the urban tree canopy reimbursement. So as you know, those go over multiple years, and so that's not really in the general fund. The way they're looking at it is really reimbursements for those program grant dollars that communities were awarded. That would be the 24 reimbursements. And so if you look at the total budget appropriation at this time draft, including that program budget, it's a little over 3.1 million for our agency. And then we have a budget hearing in front of the Committee of the Whole of Council on November 10th. So each department will be going before council. And we have not gotten yet our itemized budget. This was just the big roll-up, so we will be getting that hopefully by the end of the week to just drill in and see where things are. But you know, we're working every day to try and make sure we're saving money where we can, and obviously know that things are tight and working through that going forward. So.
Okay, all right. Next
Yes.
question.
I just wanted to let you know, from all the hard work with South Euclid and the Planning Commission, the Akron Cuyahoga County Board of Realtors have awarded South Euclid the Home for All Award, which is a huge award, and a lot of it comes from the actual planning that we did with the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission, and I brought that up. Didn't get you an invite, I don't think, but I tried. But it's because of all the work that your team and our team put together, and I know Michael also presented on it recently at the conference, and it's really gotten a lot of, I think it's got a lot of communities thinking, so hopefully you won't be overwhelmed with more requests.
Thank you, and thank you for your words at the HRAE committee on
Oh, bye.
support for us and how zoning has really
Yeah.
resulted in new homes being constructed in South Euclid. And
Well, I was trying to explain to them, because of the planning, we get new homes, brings in new tax dollars. So to constrict this, budget so severely, you are just really constricting the fact that communities aren't able to, bring more resources into the county. It really is true. I mean, if you look at the planning and what we did and how we worked specifically over probably the last 7 to 10 years, it's amazing to me. And so I say to myself, if you gave them a little more money, I'm not asking for a lot of money, but a little more money, what more could you bring into the county? 2023, 2030 to 2035, this county will be totally built out. So if you do not start planning now, and it's 2025, where are you gonna be? So for me, I think that it's short-minded. But that's just me, and it would
And
bring,
me.
yeah, it'd bring more money.
Listen, if I can, the strength of the county is the strength of our communities. If we don't invest in communities on a regional basis, that's the demise. That's urban sprawl. Everything we need to do to strengthen what we do on the community level at the cities, and I'm a firm believer of that. And it comes from planning, and the planning of the mayor on way back when we tore down these homes and had vacant lots sitting there. We got a lot of flack, but the planning started way back with that vision
Yeah.
and the support now that brought us here.
But being on the planning commission in
Yes.
South Euclid for 8 years, I learned a lot, and we got a couple grants back then in the 90s. But people weren't thinking big enough. And I think that's what's happening right now. I know that there's restraints, but if you don't start thinking big enough, we're just gonna be left behind.
Yep.
And it's the truth. I mean, it's just how it
zoning
goes.
didn't used to be sexy, but it is, it's one of those things that I said zoning didn't used to be sexy. Now everyone's talking about zoning.
But it is true, because it's results driven. It totally is results driven. Communities around me are deficit spending. South Euclid is not, and we have reserves that we never had before. So what does it tell you?
Well, the zoning's archaic, that's.
It's just, even from Meg's presentation, I mean, every recommendation we do, when we're doing a plan, a master plan comes up to update the zoning.
At the
And
end of the
so,
day,
right, it
right.
comes, we do the plan and then we.
And you have to be tough enough to do it.
Any other comments, questions?
So on that point, so we saw the presentation for the Richmond Chardon kind of assuming that their council kind of put that forth to
I think they
this.
approved
They
it.
They
approved
adopted
it.
it.
I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Initially, when they did it, they put it forth here to the county planning. So what happens with like City of Cleveland? It's a big city. Of course, we saw the 22nd corridor, but what about them? Or how do we get them integrated into some of these neighborhoods that need that kind of look-see?
Yeah.
They
I
sure
mean,
do.
Marka, you can speak to it, obviously, yeah.
I mean, you're talking about how do you get that particular plan, or how do you do other planning?
Or how do we, so Case is, kind of has its own, but there are some areas in the city of Cleveland that really need to be developed and looked at, so.
Yeah, so we, I mean, we do this regularly throughout the city, and so most neighborhoods do have a neighborhood plan. It can either be the development corporation that does it, or it'll be city planning, and typically us working with the city. We're in the process of getting ready to do our citywide master plan. So all of these small area plans will then be incorporated into that larger master plan. But we have, the areas that we plan for typically depends on like what the particular need is. It's motivated by a development that might be coming or vacant land that's, like for instance, in Ward 1, where we have schools that have been demolished, and so we're now trying to replant those areas. And so those will all go through that process, and then they get adopted by city planning.
We'll continue to do partnerships with the city of
Yeah.
Cleveland. I mean, the form-based code is a great example of citywide and different districts and how they're trying to attack that. And we look at West 117th Street corridor that we're discussing right now with the city of Cleveland and the city of Lakewood and Public Works and everybody else, that this is a corridor that needs to connect neighborhoods to the lake. And so looking at how it operates now, what are the future opportunities for it? And as businesses come and go or rebuild buildings they have, form-based code has helped get those up to the street and safer and more landscaping and other things. And so continuing partnerships like that for the big corridors, but then
Right.
neighborhood level is really gonna be at the neighborhood level. But it goes back to zoning on some of this too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, we have to rezone, although, I mean, a lot of our zoning is way outdated, and so, we also, because we're doing form-based code now, we're starting to utilize that in some of the areas. It's, form-based code, we have 3 pilot neighborhoods that we, have done, but we are, looking at expanding it throughout the city, and right now it's based on the council person saying, it's more by request at this point, but our goal is to try to do it citywide. So right now we're working out kinks.
Thanks, Marka. Anything further from anyone? All right, old business? None? New business? None? Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
All right, solid waste is
We're
up
gonna
next.
jump right into solid waste now.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Everyone's all right with that?
Yes.
All right, this is the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District Policy Committee meeting for October 9th. Annette, can we call the roll, please?
Mayor Burke,
Here.
Councilperson Conwell,
Present.
Mayor Daley Jones,
Here.
Director Dever,
Here.
Mayor Gallo,
She's here, she just stepped out for a moment.
Ms. Marka Fields.
Here.
Mayor Kurtz.
Here.
Mayor Orcutt,
Here.
Councilperson Simon,
Here.
Mayor Wheelo.
Here.
Tim Weber. Michelle Wilhelm.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from the June 12th, 2025 Policy Committee meeting. Can I have a motion? So moved by Mayor Burke.
Second.
Second by Mayor Jones. Any comments or questions or updates? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. We'll go right into district updates. Beth?
Thank you. Hard to believe, but we have been on our plan update journey for 28 months at this point. And we first entered that back on May of 2023. And this chart with a green star on it delineates where we are in our journey. So we have managed to submit our draft plan, which was back in August of 2024 to the EPA. We've had our public hearing, public comment period. We completed our ratification over the summer. That's what we did for our summer vacation. And we are here before you today to present the findings of our ratification journey and to ask you to please consider passage of a resolution that would certify our ratification process, which would then allow us to submit our final plan to the EPA by November the 25th. And at which point then the EPA has 90 days to review that final document and issue our findings and orders, which gives us our marching orders to implement it. So we hope to get that no later than February of 2026. There's a possibility we get those findings and orders even this year, hopefully. I wanted to share with you, this is, and in your packet, there's this same table. So our ratification process requires us to ask each of our 59 communities to consider passing a piece of legislation in support of the plan. And statutorily, we have 90 days in which to do that, regardless of summer schedules for councils. Our ratification period concluded on August the 10th. Happy to report that we got 58 out of 59 communities as of August the 10th. We were also required to get an affirmative vote from County Council, which we did, as well as the City of Cleveland, which is our largest political subdivision. We too got an affirmative piece of legislation from them. We did receive from East Cleveland a resolution on September the 3rd. Unfortunately, we can't count that towards our ratification because that was beyond our statutory deadline. So we concluded our visits with all of the communities, obtaining 58 yes votes. If we don't obtain action in that period of time, we have to count it as a no vote. We have one no vote, and all of that totaled up 98.9% of the population of the district. So we have concluded that. And then before you, we have the resolution. It's a rather lengthy one. I apologize if it is about a page and a half. But we are asking you to please certify the table that we just presented. And in doing so, then we will actually create a document with this front on it. It's the same document we've had. We just can officially put ratified plan on it and send it to the EPA by our deadline, which is in November, and then they will review it, like I said, and send us back findings and orders.
And make the motion first.
Second.
Okay, motion been by Mayor Wheelo and seconded by Mayor Gallo. Any comments, questions on the
Just great job.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Outstanding.
Hard work,
98%?
Yep, thank you.
strong team.
and being on with Commissioner Petro to actually get the solid waste district back in the 90s. It was really exciting. I kind of reached out to him. He actually went to churches and PTAs, anybody that would hear us, and because people didn't understand it, so to see us, this was, for me personally, it was great to be on it.
Thank you.
So, thank you for the honor.
Any other comment? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, that motion carries. Thank you. All right.
Just quickly, some quick announcements. We are coming up on our last second Saturday of the month, which is this Saturday. So please come and bring us whatever you may have. If you've got, Halloween lights that didn't work when you got them out this year, bring them to us. And electronics. We also on this Saturday are conducting our television collection event. It is free. You just simply make an appointment. You bring the televisions in. It's your opportunity. If you still have one of those very large tube televisions or a console, you can't think of anything creative to do with the console, bring the whole thing to us and we will have it recycled. We then have on the 15th another Learn to Compost webinar that Karen will be conducting, and actually it'll be at New Point Community Development Center in the evening. So if you want to hop on the composting wagon and learn, it's the season, we haven't had too many leaves come down, so not too late. And with that concludes my report.
Anybody else have any comments, questions?
Just on that, old computers.
Television. Oh, yes, computers were open 9 to 1 on that second Saturday. We have staff there, and if you come into our front lobby area, if you've got computers, we'll be collecting the televisions on the side of the building. You'll we follow the signs, but if you have old computers, it's right in our lobby area. We have a large cart in the lobby labeled electronics, and you can just put them in there.
Beth, did you get all your new audio-visual stuff taken care of yet?
They are working on running the lines as we speak. So we have holes and we have plywood, so I take that as a
coming
good
along.
step. It's coming along.
Okay, if there's no other questions, comments, if there's none, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.